Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Briar Greaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company that you can count on. So whether that's auto, homeowners, flood boaters, or business insurance, there is nobody better in the business to work with than the great people over at Briar Greaves Insurance. For more information about them, visit their website, briargreavesinsurance.com, or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. And make sure you give them a call, because if you do, there's still a little bit of time. You give Briar Greaves Insurance a call, and you will automatically be entered into a raffle to win tickets in the lower bowl section for the Bucs-Falcons Thursday night game at Raymond James Stadium, which is also the creamsicle game for the Bucs. So certainly a game you're going to want to be going to, especially with Tampa Bay trying to clinch that NFC South division. It's going to be a tight race down the stretch. So make sure you give Briar Greaves Insurance a call. Happy Victory Monday to everybody. We're talking about a Bucs win for the first time in several weeks, but it's great to be talking about a Bucs win. They are now 7-5 on the season after defeating the Arizona Cardinals yesterday and staying atop of the NFC South, with the Carolina Panthers having a big upset win over the Rams, who demolished the Bucs one weekend ago. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that Bucs-Cardinals game, break down some injury news that's very important and actually quite positive for the Bucs, and recap a little bit of what Todd Bowles had to say as well. So let's get into today's show. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is the face that runs the place at PewterReport.com, SR, Scott Reynolds. How we doing, Scott?
Doing good. A little under the weather today, but hanging in there, and certainly had some time to reflect on Tampa Bay's win yesterday. And I think I get a pretty good read on you Bucs fans. I think I do. If the Buccaneers had won 20-17, which they did over the Cardinals, and maybe a not so impressive fashion, but if the Rams had beaten the Panthers yesterday, like they were supposed to do, and the Panthers didn't get that upset win, I don't think there'd be as much angst amongst Bucs fans today, Matt. I get a feeling that it was the fact that the Panthers beat the Rams, the team that kicked the crap out of the Bucs the week prior. That coupled with, a not so impressive win by Tampa Bay over Arizona. Those two things at the same time kind of combined for wow, boy, if the Bucs played the Panthers tomorrow, the Panthers would beat the Bucs. And I wrote about that in my 2-point conversion column, which will be published here in just a few minutes. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think Tampa Bay has a couple of weeks to improve. And remember, they incorporated a lot of new parts back into the fold. Hassan Reddick got his feet wet again. Ben Bredesen, Bucky Irving, Chris Godwin. It took him 4 games to kind of get to this point. Played in 2 games against the Eagles and Seahawks, and then a game against the Rams. Now he's kind of back to being old Chris and feeling good after that game, which was great to see. So I think Tampa Bay can make some progress, not just on the player execution standpoint, but also on the health standpoint. They didn't come out of yesterday's game with any new injuries, which is a great sign. And with games coming up against the Saints and the Falcons, Matt, especially having that little mini bye week that comes after the Thursday night game in preparation for going to Carolina, I think Tampa Bay can really work itself into a good situation heading into Carolina, hopefully at 9-5, and then ready to play maybe its best football with some reinforcements on the way.
Yeah, because if the Bucs are able to win on Sunday in that Thursday night game, that means if they were to defeat the Carolina Panthers, I'm pretty sure that would clinch the NFC South just based on certain tiebreakers.
That's right.
And stuff like that. And I understand the frustration of Bucs fans. Like, if the Bucs were to win 40-17 instead of 20-17, I think we're probably singing a little bit of a different tune. Of course, on top of Carolina having a big win over the Rams. And I think it's important to remember it is a week-to-week league. And
that's right.
I think the Panthers are the perfect example of that. I mean, they've had games where they've lost by more than 28 points. One to the Bills, one of them was to the Patriots. Then they shut out the Falcons 30-0 early in the season. Then they beat the Packers in Green Bay, and then lose to the Saints the following week.
That's right.
The Panthers might be one of the most unpredictable teams in the league. So how that, obviously, it matters for the Bucs as they're in the same division, and the Panthers are the team that's chasing Tampa Bay. And I get why people would be angry, because I think a lot of us penciled this in. Okay, Bucs are going to win. Panthers are going to lose. That'll put the Bucs a game and a half up. Panthers are on a bye this week.
That's
Bucs
right.
have a very winnable game against the Saints. Bam, you're up 2, playing early on Thursday.
Yep.
The pressure even more on Carolina.
That's right.
If you beat Atlanta on that Thursday game. But it is the NFL. Upsets happen all the time. There were a couple of upsets this week. Also a great Sunday night game where the Commanders almost at the Denver Broncos. But regardless, because it's week to week, the Bucs looked iffy. They looked okay.
Yeah.
But that sign of exhale, that sign of just, okay, we saw one go in the hoop. We finally got a win for the first time in 4 weeks. That can help catapult other things. And to your point, having more of Chris Godwin Jr., who pretty much doubled his snap count percentage, was important. Sprinkling
and doubled his production in the game.
I mean, he essentially quadrupled his production for the entire season. And then, just a little bit more. And we said this yesterday. Bucky did not look like a guy that hasn't played football since September, but he was a guy that hasn't played football since September. He played about 52% of the snaps. That jumps up to, say, 60, maybe even 65% that next game. That only means much more progress for the offense. It only means building more leads where the defense hopefully doesn't sleepwalk through certain moments of the game. So I understand the frustration, but at the end of the day, it was a win for the Bucs. And if they beat the Saints on Sunday, it doesn't matter if they win 100-0 or 2-0, which that'd be crazy if they won 2-0, but still counts as a win. Love that. And everything is and everything still is very much in front of the Bucs. It's still very much in front of the Panthers as well. But we've seen the story before with Tampa Bay and Todd Bowles and losing streaks and then winning streaks. So in my opinion, they're right on pace for what they were supposed to do all season long.
Yeah, and remember last year, the Bucs go up to Carolina late in the season, and they kind of escape with an overtime win, 28-23. That was back in Week 13, really exactly a year ago today. They beat the Panthers 26-23 in overtime. Bucky Irving was the NFL, or I should say the NFC Offensive Player of the Week, had 152 yards and a touchdown on the ground. And we thought, wow, the Fighting Dave Canales says, this is a team on the rise. They had narrowly lost to the Chiefs like the week prior, and they were really kind of building towards some momentum towards the end of the season. They actually wound up with a couple of overtime wins, including one at Atlanta to get Jimmy Lake, their defensive coordinator for the Falcons, fired at the end of the year. But remember, we kind of expected more of a fight from the Panthers because of what they were able to do in Carolina when they came to Tampa for that rematch in Week 17, and it was all Buccaneers. 48-14 was the final score. The Buccaneers had one of the most convincing wins of the season. And so that just kind of goes to show you that, what happened in Week 13, as good as the Panthers looked yesterday and as maybe mediocre as the Bucs looked, it can look a whole lot different just 3 weeks from now, right? So a lot of factors can come into play. Health, momentum, whether this team makes some strides in tackling, which Todd Bowles said they're going to go back to some tackling dummies this week and really shore that up. They could have had 6 sacks by my count yesterday. They only had 2. Vita Vea collected number 3.5 on the year. Yaya Diaby leads this team with 6 now. That's an encouraging sign. He's getting closer to his career high, which was 7.5 his rookie year. He's already surpassed last year's numbers of 4.5. But there were some sacks left out there on the field, so maybe we'll see more of a complete effort by the defense, kind of like what they had against the Saints back in the week prior to the bye week. Although I will caution Bucs fans, you look at the Saints' record, they've won 2 games. I will remind you, for whatever reason, the Saints play better at Raymond James Stadium than they do in their own stadium when it comes to playing the Buccaneers. Todd Bowles is 6-1 against the New Orleans Saints. 6-1. This was a Saints team that used to dominate the Buccaneers when they won those 4 straight division titles. Now the tables have been turned. The Buccaneers are on top of the NFC South for year after year after year after year, hopefully one more season. But that one loss that Todd Bowles had, that was when everything was on the line, and they were that close to clinching the division back in 2023. And the Saints came into Ray J, and Derek Carr had a day and ended up winning. So, and remember that game last year kind of went down to the wire, where Mike Evans got that last catch in what was, I believe, a one-score game. So expect a fight. Expect another close game. This is a divisional game. And remember, the Saints went into Carolina and beat the Panthers by 10 points, 17-7, about a month ago. So I think Tampa Bay handles business, but I just want to offer a little bit of perspective here. And you're exactly right. This Panthers team is very mercurial. They can look really good and win and surprise you, and they can also look really bad and lose and surprise you, too.
Yeah, I mean, at this point of the season, and Baker Mayfield has talked about that every single game is a playoff game for them, and it absolutely is once the calendar, well, it turned to December today. It is December 1st, but he's absolutely right there. And the Bucs are in no position to take any team for granted. I don't care if the Tennessee Titans were on the schedule. Well, I guess they were on the schedule in training camp, but as far as the regular season goes, I mean, this is a Bucs team that, I mean, Atlanta they lost to the freaking Jets yesterday. This is a team that beat Atlanta by a missed field goal. They beat the Jets by a game-winning field goal. And they just won by 3 against the Cardinals yesterday, who only have 3 wins on the season. The Bucs are a good team, but they're not blowing many teams out. It's I mean, we've been calling them the cardiac Bucs all season long. That's cooled off a little bit because they've been on that losing streak, but they've played a lot of teams close, and I kind of like that they're comfortable in the chaos. That's kind of how this team is, for all the things that we didn't like about what they've done. Game was on the line, and they accomplished what they needed to accomplish, which was get the stop, prevent them from kicking a field goal to tie the game up. And the defense was at least able to do that. Now, you're not totally impressed because it's against a 3-win Arizona Cardinal team. But looking at the Saints, and of course, we'll preview this all on Wednesday's show, but looking at the Saints, you have a quarterback, Tyler Shuck, that has a couple of more games under his belt as the starting quarterback of this team. And they're scrappy. I mean, they tried to hang tough with Miami, who the Bucs will see later on in this month.
Yeah,
so
Miami's starting to gain some ground. That
John Gruden was the first one to call it.
That's right.
Weeks ago.
Yeah, and that Week 17 game, that might be a little bit of a trap game now. Here's the thing: if the Buccaneers, if they handle business the next 3 weeks, if they get wins over the Saints, the Falcons, and the Panthers, Matt, you're right. They will win the division in Week 16 in Carolina, and in a game that could be in prime time. They could flex that game because right now the Week 16 Sunday night game is the Bengals at the Dolphins, and both those teams have below 500 records.
Yeah.
So there's a pretty good chance that the Bucs will be in contention. I think there's 2 other really quality matchups. One of them is Baltimore and the Patriots. The Baltimore loss yesterday might have taken a little bit of wind out of the sails in that game.
Yeah.
But I think the other one is Denver. Denver's playing another good team that week. So it could come down to the Buccaneers, whether Sunday Night Football wants an NFC matchup or an AFC matchup, but they'll be in contention for that. And I think if the Buccaneers win over the next 2 weeks, get a star player like maybe Mike Evans back, and the Panthers have to basically beat the Saints, and because they have the bye weeks. They'll have the bye week, then the Saints. If they do that, then they'll be right there with 8 wins, and we could see Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan back by then. Matt, we heard some good news from Todd Bowles today.
Very, very exciting news from head coach Todd Bowles speaking today. There were some reports about Jalen McMillan and when he could be able to return and practice. And Coach Bowles said that Jalen McMillan was, he's been running and stuff like that. But the next step for him is putting on a helmet and running and working out, which makes a ton of sense because he's coming off of a neck injury. So you got to see how the neck holds up and his whole well-being holds up. Running in pads and a helmet and everything like that. But he's going to do more this week. I don't think that means that he's going to play, but he's going to do more, which is an awesome sign. And then when Coach Bowles was asked about Mike Evans, and when he could start practicing, he said there's a possibility, and that it is possible that Mike Evans will practice starting this week. So that would be a much welcomed addition with each of those wide receivers coming back, because it's a group right there with Chris Godwin Jr. as well, and of course Baker Mayfield at quarterback that we haven't seen take the field together in a regular season game yet this season. And I think that's the other kind of glimmering hope that you can have for Tampa Bay, is the fact that it's not just reinforcements are on the way. It's reinforcements that obviously other teams are familiar with. Everybody knows Mike Evans at this point. There's enough tape on Jalen McMillan after his rookie season.
Yeah.
But as far as game planning, how much can an opponent expect not seeing what Josh Grizzard is going to dial up for this trio that has yet to play together? So that's certainly something on the back burner for Tampa Bay that they can point to as some hope and inspiration for this playoff run.
And I think part of it too, Matt, is who would love to see Mike Evans back with a Chris Godwin like we saw yesterday. Emeka Egbuka. He's been having to get double covered. His rookie season's gone from, oh wow, this is cool playing opposite Mike, I'm going to catch these game-winning touchdowns, to all of a sudden, oh wait, I'm the man, I'm the guy, I'm the passing game, I'm the guy that Baker's forcing the ball to. Oh shit, I got to deal with this, right? And he, as mature as he is, as good as he is, he's still a rookie, right? He's still learning how to play at this level, seeing coverages roll his way that he hasn't seen before, going up against NFL Pro Bowl caliber cornerbacks he's never played against, right? So this is still his rookie season. Same with Tez Johnson too. So for Emeka Egbuka to maybe be a wide receiver 3, which is kind of what the team had hoped he would be this year, he and Jalen McMillan kind of vying for that role, and at the same time maybe allowing Grizz to go 4 wide receivers with all of those guys in the field, forcing defenses into nickel and dime looks to deal with that, with Bucky Irving in the backfield in a single back set. Boy, can you imagine if Bucky Irving could just pick a hole right with one linebacker? I mean, the options Grizz could have. I mean, there's a lot that can be done down the stretch here on offense when these guys come back, and it really would give Grizz almost a full hand. I mean, if he had 4 out of the 5 offensive linemen, his full complement of wide receivers back, and more importantly too, you're not, you have Mike Evans coming back with some fresh legs. Jalen McMillan, his legs are as fresh as can be. He hasn't even played in the game yet. We saw what Bucky Irving looked like with fresh legs yesterday, right? So having all of those weapons back, and then, if Jalen needs a spell, you put Emeka in, right? And if Mike needs a spell, then you've got Chris and Mech and J Mac on the field together, and you still feel really good about that if you're Baker Mayfield, about picking up first downs and moving the chain. So, the biggest thing is this team has won yesterday. It did what it had to do, get off the losing streak, gotten to this point, and here we are on a Victory Monday, Matt, and not just a Victory Monday, but a Victory Monday where it's 420, and you know what that means. We do it every Monday. It's called
Roll Call. That's right. We love doing roll call with all of our fans, Pewter people, Bucs fans. We love interacting with our fans as much as we possibly can, because y'all are all over the world, not just in Tampa, Florida, but literally the whole world. And one way we love interacting with our fans is through roll call on Mondays, or most Mondays, where one of us will go into conversation about the Bucs or something around the league in the NFL. And in the meantime, if you want to put in the comments where you were watching from, we'll put it up on the screen, and then give a couple of personal shout outs as well. So I got a couple of things I want to talk about today as far as the overview and outlook of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I do also want to make one final point about Emeka Egbuka, so I'll kind of combine this together. But also Josh Grizzard, I think it hasn't been fair to him. It hasn't been fair to Bucs fans with all these injuries. But for him, a first-time play caller, having that whack-a-mole situation of, okay, I have Mike Evans, but no Tristan Wirfs and Chris Godwin. Okay, I got Tristan Wirfs back, but no, Mike Evans is going to go out in that Jets game. Okay, now I got Chris Godwin Jr. Well, you're only going to get him for 2 games, and then you lose Bucky Irving. So I think it'll pay dividends for Josh Grizzard as well, just as much as Emeka Egbuka. And I don't want to say Egbuka has hit a rookie wall. I don't think that's fair to say. But when you look at who was by his side in the beginning of the year. He has Mike Evans. He scores 2 touchdowns in that first game against Atlanta. He scores another one against Houston on Monday Night Football. Had a nice 85-yard game against the Jets where Mike was in, but then he was out. Chris Godwin returns, and bam, 101 yards and a touchdown, then 163 yards and a touchdown. But since then, he's really cooled off, and this coincides with no Chris Godwin Jr., and Mike Evans didn't come back until that Detroit game, but was only in for the Detroit game before he unfortunately broke his collarbone. You look at games against San Fran, 2 for 24, 58 yards against Detroit, 35 against New Orleans. The only big game he really had was coming out of the bye facing the Patriots, where he had 6 catches for 115 yards and 1 touchdown. The past couple of weeks, solid, but 40 yards, 32 yards, 42 yards. He hasn't been that game breaker that he was earlier in the season. And I'm not blaming him necessarily because, as Scott pointed out, a lot of discussions about the focus by defenses on Emeka Egbuka. So he definitely will be one of the big beneficiaries when it comes to what Tampa Bay wants to do offensively if they are able to get Mike Evans back and Chris Godwin Jr. continues to progress. So ending those thoughts, and just kind of looking at the Bucs and their playoff picture, what I'm about to say, I'm with full understanding that they have to win the division, and that's not a guarantee, and it's going to be a bloodbath with the Carolina Panthers. And even right now, looking at the entire NFC conference, different things can happen with the seedings. I mean, the Bears play the Packers this week. That can change a lot of the seedings as well. But if the Bucs are able to win the NFC South, odds are they probably are going to be the 4 seed, just kind of based on the record of the Eagles, the record of really everyone in the NFC West outside of the Arizona Cardinals, whoever ends up getting that 2 seed. So that'll put the Bucs at the 4 seed. But right now, as it stands, you have the Bears as the 1 seed, the Rams as the 2 seed, the Eagles as the 3 seed, the Bucs as the 4, and then 5, 6, 7 is Seattle, Green Bay, and San Francisco. And again, I understand these can change a little bit. But looking at this NFC conference right now, before the season, I said the Bucs ceiling to me is the NFC Championship game. As the seasons went on and injuries have factored in, now to me it's a little bit more of probably the second round. That divisional round is probably the ceiling for the Bucs. But if this bracket holds out the way that it could, with the Bucs playing Seattle in round 1, it would be Eagles against Packers and then Rams against San Francisco. I can see a path where the Bucs get their way into an NFC Championship game. Now, one of the first ways, if all the home teams win in that first round of the postseason, that means the Rams, the 2 seed, would play the Eagles in the second round, and the Bucs will play the Chicago Bears in Chicago in round 2. Well, actually, let me start with Seattle. The Bucs had an explosive game against Seattle earlier in the season, and I know the Seahawks have still looked pretty good ever since that meeting and that matchup.
Yeah.
But Sam Darnold, big game moments, bit of a choke artist.
That's true.
Look at the game against the Rams a couple weeks ago, 4 interceptions. The game against the Lions to try to get the number 1 seed with the Vikings last year, did not play well, didn't look good in the playoffs either. So if you get a choke artist Sam Darnold, in the first round, that could be a win for Tampa Bay at home hosting a West Coast team. Then you're playing the Bears in the second round. All the Bears know how to do is choke. They typically lose the big games. So that would be an advantage for Tampa Bay. The only team they would have to avoid really is the Rams if the Packers were able to upset the Eagles. Because I could see a situation where San Fran beats the Rams. They go and play the Bears next because they'd be the 7 seed. This is a San Fran team that already beat the Rams earlier in the year. Then you're looking at the Bucs playing the Eagles. Eagles are self-imploding. They look more like that 2023 team that the Bucs beat in the postseason. Yeah. That was the first round, but that would be a second round matchup. Or a Packers team that certainly is beatable, and the Bucs would be hosting Green Bay in that matchup. I'm not saying it's likely, but the way this bracket is set up, the Bucs have a couple of good bounces that could go their way and get them into the NFC Championship game. Plus, what we just talked about with all the wide receivers coming back, no other team has that same advantage of just having this great group coming together. And maybe Kalijah Kancey with a little help on the pass rush. Yeah. I don't know. Could be the case.
It's interesting, Matt. It's really interesting. You prepped me for this topic earlier today, and I was really curious to hear it. And, stranger things have happened. I remember in 2002, it just so happens that was the year the Bucs traded for John Gruden. He brought the West Coast offense to Tampa Bay. And as the stars and the fates aligned, who did the Buccaneers play in the playoffs? Well, they hosted the 49ers, the Steve Mariucci 49ers, in the first round of the playoffs in 2002, a West Coast offense team. Then they went to Philly and played Andy Reid and a West Coast offense, right? Again, something that the Buccaneers defense had seen the week prior and had seen in training camp and practice all the time. Then they played the Oakland Raiders in the Super Bowl. And that was John Gruden's old team where he knew the personnel, he knew the offense. It was still his offense, and that allowed the Buccaneers to win. So it's sometimes the stars align just right for you, and that's what happened back in 2002. Oh, and Simeon Rice was there too, and he was there yesterday, and that was fun to see him get into the Bucs Ring of Honor. So what you're saying is you're telling me there's a chance.
Yeah, and if everything goes back with like a coach playing a former team, we talking Bucs Jags Super Bowl. Now if it went the same way with Gruden, that means the Jaguars would beat the Bucs. But
let's hope that doesn't go all the way back. Yeah, I mean I like Liam Cohen, but not that much. So great stuff, Matt. Greatly appreciate your insight there. Had a great turnout for roll call. We'll get to that in just a second, but what I wanted to do is let y'all know that we've got our next show coming up, and we might have an emergency podcast if things get carried away at practice and we see Mike Evans out there and Jalen McMillan. We might do an emergency podcast on Wednesday. We might just not be able to wait till 4:00. Just letting you know. So keep an eye out for that around noonish, maybe 11 noon, something like that on Wednesday. But what we do know is on Wednesday we're going to have our Bucs versus Saints preview, and this is a must-win game alert. I believe Baker Mayfield when he says all these games are must-win. Okay, Baker, we believe you. This is a must-win game alert, the Bucs versus Saints preview. That's 4:00 on Wednesday, so make sure you're right here on Pewter Report TV for that, as well as you can watch it on our X or Facebook streams, or streamed live on @Pewter Report channel, so make sure you check that out. Also, make sure you check out today or tomorrow. I'm going to give you some leeway. You can either go to Walk-Ons today or you can go tomorrow. And when you go, make sure you check out, maybe you want to go tonight and watch the Monday Night Football game, or maybe you want to watch some college basketball or some NHL hockey, or some NBA. You can do that because they have all the games and all the TVs there. And you can feast on their food at 3 Tampa Bay area locations, Wesley Chapel, Midtown Tampa, and Lakeland. And why I say today and tomorrow, because they've got happy hour going on right now until close, 3 p.m. to close on Monday, every single Monday. Then Tuesday, it's all-day happy hour from open to close. You can't beat that. Best happy hour in Tampa. Plus $5 Tito's. You can eat like a winner, drink like a champ. It's fantastic prices that will bust the inflation right out of your system, folks. Right in the time for the holiday spirit. $3.99 domestic pints, $5 premium house pours or happy hour wines. $5.49 get you the big 22-ounce domestic drafts. $4 for the hush puppies or onion rings. $7 for the boom boom shrimp or the half order of the waffle cheese fries or that spinach and artichoke dip that Ashley and I just love. Or $8 get you the boneless wings or cheeseburger sliders. Head over to Walk-Ons if you haven't already. They got one right over there across from the Outlet Mall up here in Wesley Chapel. So while you're doing your holiday shopping, just pop in to Walk-Ons, grab a meal, watch some games, and enjoy some of those happy hour prices. 3 to close today, all day tomorrow. Can't beat it.
Love Walk-Ons. Tons of TVs, tons of games to watch, especially with bowl season coming around for college football and some great matchups in the NFL too. Cannot recommend Walk-Ons enough.
For sure. Before we get going on our Super Chats, because they are piling up, I do want to give a shout out to some awesome Pewter people who joined us today from all places across the country and the world. Let's start off here with Okie Buck, Claremore, Oklahoma. That's James Tolson. Appreciate you watching from the Midwest. Let's stay in the Midwest, shall we? A little bit. Let's pop over to my old stomping grounds. Christopher Oxentine, cold and snowy, Overland Park, Kansas. Yeah, my daughter Ellie's up at K-State. She FaceTime me. She's got a couple inches of snow on the ground up there. It is cold, dark, and snowy in Syracuse, New York for Letus Productions. And the snow doesn't stop there, folks. No, it's snowing elsewhere up here in Snowy Duluth, Minnesota. That's where DeRitz 9245 is checking in. So we've got a lot of snowbound people. We also had Illinois represented today. A lot of folks from the Illini State, from Peace on Earth is one of those in Princeton, Illinois. And let's tune into Florida. And we're going to see Tommy Leverone is tuning in from Temple Terrace. I enjoyed running into you too yesterday, Tommy, at the game. Always fun to run into our Pewter people at the stadium. And Tommy the Greek down there in Fort Myers. It's sunny down here in Florida, a little overcast right now, but certainly not snowing, Matt, not like other places.
No.
Sticking with some of the around the world themes, we have from Nairobi, Kenya. I don't think it's snowing there. Appreciate you checking in as well.
Yeah, very cool.
Got a couple of people from the South, Shepherdsville, Kentucky, David Weber. Thank you. And another Kentucky peep from Louisville. I say that because I'm kind of craving a bourbon right now. I'm thinking Kentucky on my brain. James Hamilton, thank you so much for checking in. Seville, Spain, via Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, via originally from Land O'Lakes, Florida. The real Maverick over there in Spain checking us out. That's pretty cool.
Great. Very cool.
Starkville, Mississippi. I told you we had a couple of Southern folks here. That's David. He's checking in from Starkville. Going back to the state of Florida. It's Jabo, Lakeland, Florida. Shout out PR. We thank you all for the coverage. Well, thank you all for tuning in for sure. And Argentina, Tiago Pachetto. See you guys in 9 days in Ray J. 3 more games, one at a time. LFG Bucs. And then last but not least, we've got HB Livin, Southwest in the air over Arizona. Some spotty internet watching us on the plane.
We're in the skies. We appreciate that.
Very much. And Mateo, greetings, Pewter Report, Bucs fan from Colombia. Victory Monday, but we need to improve on closing games once they have the lead, on the missed tackles and getting more third downs to move the chains and run out the clock. Well said, Mateo. Thank you all so much for checking in today on Roll Call. We love doing it for you, Pewter people. And it's even more fun on a Victory Monday, Matt.
So much more fun on Victory Mondays. And it's good to get back to a Victory Monday.
Yes.
And quite a while since we've had one, but let's get to these super chats. Starting with Mark Fisher. Thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Says, first, your take on the game was spot on. Nice job. Second, could Josh do an article on why we can't cover a seam/slant route? We're getting killed each week. Well, it's one corner in particular that's going to be pretty bad on it. I'll tell you that.
As Matt gets to the next super chat, I'm going to text Josh Capo right now in our group chat. I'm going to put this on mic so you won't hear me typing away. But I'm going to do that right now just for you, Mark. Hopefully he'll do a story on that.
Look at that. Our podcasts were essentially reality TV as well. So Kings are awful. Thank you for this $5 super chat. Says, Brady and Arians raised the standard of this franchise. Bowles has driven it down. Now fans just accept being happy to win the NFC scum, I think you mean South, and losing in round 1. So again, I think we have to put into context a little bit with what Todd Bowles has had to deal with. He took over the head coaching job. It was a late retirement by Bruce Arians, and wasn't able to implement his own, or most of his own coaching staff and stuff. And it was the last year of Tom Brady. Brady was going through his own stuff, and then they were paying off the Tom Brady tax the first year with Baker Mayfield, but he's improved season by season. So I know the slides are very frustrating and the losing streaks.
Yeah.
But the best Todd Bowles has done was Baker's first year getting to the second round in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
If they get to the second round again this season, and again, everything still has to go right. They have to win the division and all that stuff. There are not many coaches that have had the wherewithal that Todd Bowles has been able to do with his teams. I think a second round exit, you're not thrilled about it, but I mean, it would be better than what they did last season with Liam Cohen, as your offensive coordinator. Now, each season's different and there's other storylines and stuff like that, but I'm not saying Todd Bowles is a long-term answer for the Bucs.
Right.
I just think more context is important to point.
No, I agree. And, the other thing, too, about the slides during the season, and again, I'm not making excuses. I think these are kind of valid reasons, too. It's like you look at the 3 teams the Buccaneers lost to, right? 2 of those are division winners, right? Leaders right now. You got the Rams leading the West, and you've got the Bills that are a playoff caliber team. And then the other team is the Patriots. They're leading the AFC East over the Bills right now. So it's not like the Bucs lost to a chump team. And last year, when you look at that 4-game losing streak, that was to a Baltimore Ravens team that was in the playoffs. The loss that probably shouldn't have happened was to the Falcons, right? But then they lost at Kansas City in overtime, and they lost to San Francisco, which they kind of petered out towards the end of the year. But I think at that time, San Francisco was still kind of like a pretty good team, you know?
Yeah.
And the Bucs just didn't have many weapons on offense, and they didn't have some players in the secondary too due to injury. So not making excuses, but in those losing patches, it wasn't like that unforgivable loss it wasn't like they lost to this year's Titans team, you know, or to a 2-win Saints team, right? So that they lost to some pretty good teams, and that's a little bit more forgivable than I think a stub your toe loss where you had no business losing to that team. Like I said, the Buccaneers had no business losing to the Cardinals yesterday, right? And they mission accomplished. They won the game. It didn't have to be pretty. They just had to win. It was a must win. That's what Baker Mayfield means by must win. It doesn't mean must win by a lot. It just means must win.
Yeah, they haven't had the stub your toe game yet, and hopefully that they don't at all. But if they were to lose to the Saints on Sunday or that Thursday night game against Atlanta, it would be horrific. And if they don't end up making the postseason because of it, then I think that opens up a completely different conversation with Todd Bowles. But until that happens, we can't sit here and say, oh, he should be fired or this or that.
Yep, I agree.
Kings are awful with another super chat. This one of $5 again. Thank you very much. Says Vrabel and Ryans have their own defensive coordinators they brought from the outside, and both are superior than Bowles. Why is Bowles allowed to be the defensive coordinator and the head coach?
Same reason why Andy Reid calls plays in Kansas City, and the reason why, Matt LaFleur calls plays in Green Bay, and that's just how it is. There's only a few walk-around coaches. Mike Tomlin's one, John Harbaugh's one. Who else am I missing? Kevin O'Connell calls plays in Minnesota. Yeah. That's usually Mike McDonald calls the defense in Seattle, right? Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, Aaron
Glenn, I think, is. I mean, not that the Jets are a good example, but Aaron Glenn doesn't call
he's a walk-around
plays
coach.
On defense.
He does or he doesn't?
He does not. No.
Okay. All right. So there's a handful of walk-around coaches, but most of them are play callers on one side of the ball. And I think if you want Todd Bowles gone, folks, that would do it. If the Blazers or Jason Light, on behalf of the Blazers, went to Todd and said, Todd, we love you as a leader of men, but we can't have you calling the defense. I just don't think Todd wants, to share his toys. He's not a good playmate that way. I think he. If he's like, hey, if I'm going to play, I'm going to call the plays on defense. And I think to Todd's credit, if you go back and look at the games, and I probably should have this on the tip of my tongue here, and I really don't. So forgive me. I've got to don my spectacles here so I can actually read. But this is the point totals, right? And I know fans are upset yesterday that they gave up the last touchdown. They won by 3 points and all that. So it was better at 17-3. It was better at 20-10. I get that. But this is what Todd Bowles' defense has allowed in terms of points scored. And remember, the Cardinals, as lackluster as they are on offense, they were averaging 22.5 points per game. They were held to 17. That's 5.5 points less than their average. And at 17 points, that was half of what the Bucs had allowed. And the average score allowed was 34 points when you combine what they gave up against the Patriots, the Bills, and the Rams. Those 3 games add up those point totals, and an average amount is 34 points per game. So 17 points, it's progress. It's half of what they allowed the 3 previous games. But here's what the Bucs have allowed on defense this year: 20 points to the Falcons. And if you hold opponents to 20 points or less in this day and age, that's actually pretty good. 20 points to the Falcons, 19 points to the Texans, 20 points to the Jets. They scored 27, but 7 was on a blocked field goal. So that was on special teams, not defense. So 20 to the Jets, 24 to the Eagles. Again, they scored on a blocked punt. Right. So 24 to the Eagles, Gave up 35 to the Seahawks. They crapped the bed, especially in the second half there. 19 points to the 49ers, 24 points to the Lions, 3 points to the Saints, right? So that's 20 points or less in every game but 2 until the bye week. And then you had, the 3 disasters, 28 points, 44 and 34 over the last 3 weeks. But when you look at the season as a whole, it hasn't been as bad as you think it's been from a defensive standpoint because of recency bias. You're looking at the 3 L's this team has taken since the bye week and how bad it's been since then. So all I'm saying is look at the season as a whole, and the defense hasn't played that bad in terms of giving up points. It's just been a lot of points recently, but hopefully that trend is over and the new trend is beginning.
And also that Rams Sunday night game, there was, I'll put in quotations, a pick 6 on the Kate Otten debacle where he couldn't hold on to the football. Now, an argument could be made that the Rams kind of took their foot off the gas in the second half because it was Teddy Bridgewater in and stuff like that. But regardless, I think part of the issue of why optically it looks so bad too is because with the Bucs offense, they still allow a lot of underneath things. Yeah. Zion McCollum has struggled a lot. Like Jacoby Brissett's throwing for 301 yards. That really shouldn't happen. I know, you build a lead, so they have to start throwing it. But you look at the stats of all the quarterbacks, and they have some of their best games against the Buccaneers. But it doesn't matter if they only allow 17 points or 19 points, or whatever the case may be. But when the quarterbacks kind of pop off a little bit more, it raises more eyebrows, and it doesn't necessarily pass the eye test the way that some of the other stats.
Although I do want to let people know that Jacoby Brissett, in a 41-22 loss to the 49ers, completed 82.5% of his passes for 452 yards.
That's insane.
Okay, against the 49ers with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And you probably don't know that because you're not Cardinals fans, and I get that. I'm just trying to add a little bit of context here. Then last week in the 27-24 overtime loss to the Jaguars, an 8-win playoff team, a Jaguars playoff team right now, right? He completed 67.4% of his passes for 317 yards and a touchdown. Okay, so I'm just saying, it's like this was not like a one-off game for Jacoby Brissett. He's actually put up some decent numbers. Now he's thrown over 300 yards for the past 3 weeks. And he's thrown for a combined 5 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And the Bucs thankfully got one of those interceptions yesterday.
We like to talk about alternate universes on this show. There is an alternate universe where Jacoby Brissett was the free agent signing at quarterback for the Bucs and not Baker Mayfield.
Yes.
So I'm glad it didn't go that way.
Me too.
Respect to Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah,
but
agreed.
That was a big storyline that offseason. Oh, sorry. Kings are awful. Thanks for the $2 super chat. Says, hey, SR, do Glazers still want to see progress?
Yeah, I mean, progress can be defined in a lot of ways too. I mean, if they get to 11 or 12 wins this season, that's progress. Now, is it progress in the postseason if they lose in the first round? No, it's not. But it's hard to sit there and fire a coach after 11 and 12 wins, right? It just is. We saw a decline from Tony Dungy when he went, 11 wins in the NFC Championship game in 1999 to the back-to-back first round exits on the road, not even in Tampa, on the road at Philadelphia with a 10-win team, then a 9-win team. So there was a decline even before the great Tony Dungy was fired. So there has to be, I think, a substantial decline for them to just pull the trigger and fire Todd Bowles anytime soon. They just gave him a contract extension. I think I reported, I think pretty faithfully, that the Glazers were fully behind Todd Bowles at the NFL annual meeting. And then shortly thereafter, he got the contract extension. So they're as rock solid behind him as they have been. And Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, the Buccaneers have not been below 500 this year at any point in time.
No. Because they started out the season 3-0. So.
Yeah, and they've had the lead in the NFC South since week 1.
They have.
So I mean, that is progress. I understand the Bulls haters, and I'm not gonna dissuade you today with any arguments. And I'm not necessarily pro Todd Bowles either. I'm just trying to look at this objectively and say, what is progress? Well, they had the NFC South lead the entire season so far. They have not been below 500 as they were in each of the last 2 seasons. even with the 3-game losing streak, they didn't go below 500, right? They're 2 games above 500 now. They still have the NFC South lead. They win the next 3 games, you're NFC South champions again. You have another home playoff game.
Yeah, and in fairness, because I know I said a lot backing up Todd Bowles, but I think it is important to point out, like, has Todd Bowles benefited from coaching a team in the NFC South that has been one of the worst divisions in football in the last 5 years?
No doubt. Yeah.
Abso-freaking-lutely. And that's why I think the Bucs' performance, if they get into the postseason, what they do in the postseason,
it's going to matter.
I think will really matter and really dictate what the future of this team will be and what the organization wants to do with Todd Bowles in terms of, can he take them to that next level? Yeah.
And also, too, I think one thing that could help Todd Bowles, Matt, and Pewter people, is if he sweeps Carolina, because Carolina is not the Panthers of last year. They swept them last year, but that was a real nail biter. This is a better Carolina team, and we saw this coming. 2 years ago, Matt, we're like, everyone's saying Bucs and Falcons. It's going to be Bucs and Panthers before you know it. Right. And that's exactly how it's played out. So this is a better Carolina team this year, and they're going to be formidable. They're here to stay. They're going to be the rival team, where I think Atlanta is kind of like a lost cause right now. Look at their quarterback situation. Just, if you don't have a quarterback,
might be looking at a new coaching staff
that's right.
next year, depending on what's going on. So it's a good point. HY Gerbil watching from Kenya. Thank you for this super chat. I believe someone said in the comments it comes out to around 3 and change US. But anyway, thank you. Says, did anyone notice how small Emeka looked next to Godwin and Marvin Harrison Jr.? Don't know why I thought they were the same size. He can't be an X. He plays X a lot.
He's not that small. I mean, I don't know which picture or TV image you're referring to, but Emeka's pretty well put together. I mean, Chris is a yoked up, 6'1", 205, 210. Emeka's not far off from that. He really isn't. Physically, I remember when the Bucs drafted Emeka and he was at one Buccaneer place, and we saw him like in the media room at his initial press conference after the draft. I remember thinking, he's bigger than I thought he was going to be. Right? I thought he was, a pretty decent size, but he was bigger than I thought. Tez Johnson was smaller than I thought. So, but listen, I think Emeka is only going to get a little bit bigger in an NFL weight program. You go back and look at Chris Godwin in 2017. He's bigger now than he was back then.
Yeah. So, I was enamored. They showed at one point, because like Marvin Harrison Jr. was dealing with, I think like an ankle injury during the game. And so they like wrapped him in like gigantic tape, and his foot just looked like a horse's hoof that's about to run in a race or whatever. I don't know. That I was like, damn, like this guy's gigantic. But I think Emeka Buka's fine with his size.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison's big. He's 6'3", 220. He's bigger than both Chris and Mech. So big guy
for sure.
Oh, and by the way, the reason why he's playing X is because there's no Mike Evans, and he's the biggest receiver.
Well, I mean, everyone else has been injured, so he can play a little bit of everywhere. Baker Mayfield's pointed that out too, and he's really showing his extensive knowledge of just the game of football by playing so many spots this year already. David Van Dunn, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Says, I understand the crowd cap was lower yesterday, but we finally had at least 80% of the crowd as Bucs fans, which never happens. And thank God for Bucky.
Yeah, no, it was. It was all like 95% Buccaneer fans. There were not many Cardinals fans there, for sure. That was good to see. And don't think the Saints fans are going to travel that well, especially for 2 wins. Who else they have? They got the Panthers. The Panthers fans, they might show up, week 18 if the division's on the line. If the division's on the line in week 18, and the winner of that game takes all. And the other thing to note too is keep in mind, we might have said this last night. I'm a little foggy. I'm all hopped up on some medicine here, but the week 16 game at Carolina has a chance to get flexed into Sunday night. That week 18 game could also be flexed as well, because none of the games for week 18 have a time or date on them. There will be 2 games on Saturday, a matinee game in the 4:00 hour on one network, and then a primetime game on Saturday night. That'll be the finale game for those particular teams. And then the rest of the NFL slate will be on Sunday. There will be no Monday Night Football because of the playoffs. They want to make it all even. So there will be a Sunday night game. So there's really kind of like 2 night games, Saturday night and Sunday night in Week 18. Plus, there's that standalone Saturday matinee game that is kind of a primetime game by itself because there's no other competition in another time slot for another game. So there is an opportunity for that Bucs-Panthers game to be in primetime on Sunday night in Week 16 or in Week 18 here in Tampa. Sunday night football, Saturday night football, or that Saturday matinee game too. So that would be interesting to see how it shakes out.
Yeah, that'd be crazy if the Bucs have 2 primetime games in 3 weeks against the same team too.
Yeah.
You don't see that too much. Kings are awful. Thank you for the $2 super chat. Says playoff mode equals tackling dummies and broken coverage. Kings are awful is very anti-Bowls and anti-Bucs while also supporting, and we appreciate the super chat. So we'll certainly read all your super chats.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Definitely understand the message.
You and Bucs Baseman should be best friends. So I will say this. I was thinking about this, what Bowles said today in the press conference. Maybe giving up 95 yards on the ground to a lowly team like the Cardinals, 65 yards to Bam Knight, 5 yards per carry. Maybe this is a little blessing in disguise because the Panthers have that 1-2 punch of Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard, and they can run the hell out of the ball, right? And then if the Buccaneers play the Chicago Bears team, they've got 2 guys that can run the ball too. So maybe this little hiccup against the run here gets them refocused. We know Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier are a nice 1-2 punch that have hurt the Bucs in the past as well. So they have that coming up. But so maybe this is kind of a teachable moment in a win. Always better to learn lessons in a win than a loss. But to get them refocused on really clamping down on the run and tackling better. If they can do that now and that shows up and manifests itself against the Saints, Matt, then against the Cardinals on Thursday night, then you have 10 days off, and then you go to Carolina. This could be a little bit of a silver lining blessing in disguise here.
It could be because I know they're not playing the Panthers, but when they do, the Panthers are so predicated on the run. Like they're not a team that can get down by a lot because then they have to throw their way back in. And I got it. Ted McMillan certainly is in the running with Emeka Buka for Rookie of the Year, both wide receiver. Leggett has come along here and there. But, I mean, you look at like that Monday night game when they played against the 49ers. Once the 49ers got a lead,
that's right.
It was never close because Bryce Young couldn't throw his way out of the game. So
that's right.
Yeah, definitely need to stop the run against them. The Real Maverick, thank you for this $20 super chat.
Thank you very much.
With all the Bowls hate, let's point out if the Bucs win out or go 5-1, wouldn't this be improvement year over year? Mm-hmm. When would this not be acceptable? Did us Bucs fans think we were going from 10 wins to 15? What say you, SR and Magic Diamonds?
Yeah, again, 11 wins is technically an improvement, and we already kind of laid out if they're 11 wins and they win the division, they will have won the division from week 1 on. They would have had that division lead. They would have not gone below 500 all year. There's a lot of things you could point to, and the fact that this year has been the most injured Buccaneer season I can remember. And usually injuries sink your ship. They just do. But it hasn't been the case this year. This team has been awfully resilient. It always hasn't looked pretty, but they've gotten the job done. They've squeaked out some wins. They've learned how to win close games. They've won a game on prime time. Hopefully they can win another one. Matt, I think the next big challenge as it pertains to the Real Mavericks $20 super chat, which shows up in orange, is to win the creamsicle game, a game they have not won since 2009. So they've got to do that, and then maybe beating Kirk Cousins at the same time, like getting rid of that kryptonite. Right,
it would kill 2 birds with one stone, and maybe the fact that they went. Oh yeah, I didn't even mean that with the Falcons, but then also they did go 2-0 in the throwback 1976 uniforms, which are creamsicle adjacent. There's creamsicle color in it, even though it's mostly a white uniform.
Right.
And this is where, in terms of like Bowles' record and the team's record this year, that's where you have to take a step back a little bit, because when you're so close to it, you see the 3-game losing streak, the defensive issues, struggles on offense with the injuries, and you're like, I don't know about this team.
Yeah.
But if you take a step back and say, hey, let me tell you something. When this season's done, the Bucs are going to have 11 wins. They're going to win the division again. You'd probably go, oh, wow. All right, that's an improvement for Todd Bowles. He's won one more game every single season that he's been the head coach. You'd say, all right, that's a pretty good job.
Yeah.
I think where the frustration comes in is because there are high expectations that I think 12 wins and 13 wins is attainable with this group. Maybe not when Mike Evans misses a majority of the season and Chris Godwin and Bucky Irving. But I think that's probably where I think Bucs fans might be a little more angry because, 11 wins is pretty good. It's better than what they did the year before.
Yeah.
But it still feels like there's a little bit more left to be desired with them at the same time.
I'm with you. And wouldn't that be something if the team just pulled the old switcheroo and just said, we like our chances better in the 1976 Whites. Yeah. We're going to go with them one more time, and we're not going to risk it with the creamsicles on Thursday night. That would be funny.
Yeah.
Or maybe they already have some Bucco Bruce mojo from the 2 previous wins, and maybe it carries over to the creamsicles. We'll have to find out in a couple weeks.
I think so. Florida Dreamhouse, thank you for the $10 super chat. Says, I'm over my mixed emotions about yesterday. I'd rather win ugly than lose. I expect to lose no more than maybe one more game. Getting healthy and a winning streak going into the playoffs could be special. Momentum is huge. It was huge in 2020 when they won it all. So
I agree.
All you need is momentum getting into the postseason.
Yeah, and I think I could see them lose one more game. It's gonna be tough to sweep Carolina this year. They're a good team. Winning in Carolina is going to be very, very challenging. If they lost that game, wouldn't surprise me. Just because I have a lot of respect for the Fighting Dave Canales. I mean, they've got Ted McMillan. He is a big time weapon for them.
Yeah, again, my gut feeling is that they're probably going to split with Carolina, but that's why it's important to get the job done in these next 2 games. And teams that have, there are divisional opponents. They have given them some trouble.
Right.
Even when defeating them, too.
Mm-hmm.
LDBC's Most Wanted, thank you for the $1.99 super chat. Says, BA is on payroll. Why can't he help Josh Grizzard?
BA is on payroll, but BA is at Lake Oconee on his boat right now, flying that Virginia.
He said so on when he was on our podcast a couple of weeks ago. He's like, I talked to Jason. I give him advice. I'm here to help like when I can, but he's not really involved in the day-to-day type of operations.
Right. He was there yesterday. It's good to see him on premise. Yeah.
For sure. Florida Dreamhouse, thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, this team's the epitome of the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. We can level up when mostly everyone is available. I feel we will.
I will say this. I've been probing my Bucs sources, throughout the last couple of weeks as one loss turned into another, and we all kind of saw this coming. And honestly, the front office kind of saw it too. And I think some of the coaching staff was like, wow, this is going to be really challenging with the lack of star power we have with some of these big pieces, the Kalijah Canseys, the Son Reddicks, the Mike Evans, the Jalen McMillans, the Chris Godwin. Is he back? Is he not all the way back? Bucky Irving still out. With all of that going on, Ben Bredesen, he gets hurt. There was no panic though. They all kind of foresaw, even though they didn't want to admit it, those losses that happened, combined with some wins that maybe are forthcoming. Right? I think if there was never the panic button was never pressed at one Buccaneer place, and I think a lot of people in their minds looked at the schedule, reasonably concluded, we lose 3 here, we pick up 3 more wins here, and then it's basically between Carolina and us for the division title, and you have 2 games in 3 weeks to decide it, and it could play out that way. It should play out that way. Should beat the Saints. You're one step closer. Then you get that game on a short week against the Falcons. Should win there. If you do, then it kind of worked out the way everybody thought it might. Even the folks over at One Buccaneer Place.
It'll make for some fireworks at the end of the year. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Kings are awful. Thank you for the $2 super chat. Says Darnold versus this defense. I'll take Sam Darnold. I hear what you're saying. Yeah. And I like Sam Darnold. Chill guy, able to turn his career around. But look at Sam Darnold in the big games with playoff seeding on the line. He usually comes up short, and 4 interceptions against the Rams the week before the Bucs played LA. Him and like Dak Prescott, they don't show up in the big playoff moments. I know Dak beat the Bucs a couple of years ago, but I mean, it's not all on Dak, but there's a reason why the Cowboys haven't been to the NFC Championship game in 20 plus years, whatever it is. So Darnold in a big moment, having to go to the East Coast as well, I think might play in the hands of the Bucs a little bit more.
I think you're right, Matt. And one thing I'm going to point out too is keep an eye on Sam Darnold's performance when you say come to the East Coast, right? Keep an eye on Sam Darnold's performance versus Carolina, because they're going to be coming to Carolina in Week 17.
Yeah, that too.
So that's something to keep an eye on. How do the Seahawks play at Carolina on the East Coast in that game? And that might be a little bit of a precursor if Seattle has to come to Tampa in the first round of the playoffs. To your point, Matt, does the Sam Darnold play big in that big game right there? Because the NFC West might still be up for grabs at that point in time.
Oh, very much.
So
yeah, that's a 3-team race in the NFC
It
West
is,
between the Niners, the Rams, and Seattle as well.
Yep.
It's funny, like a 9-win team is the 7th seed in the NFC, like the entire conference. Just how good this group is. And,
it is.
a lot of competition. That might not be decided until the end of the year as well. Meets McGee, thank you for this $5 super chat. Says, I'm not confident with the running with the right guard. Will Luke Haggard get his chance again? You can see Baker is not confident in his pass protection, shows in his footwork.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to do some probing on that this week and see, because I'm with you. I was a little intrigued by what Luke Haggard was able to do. Like that 49ers game, I thought he played pretty well until he injured that shoulder. And he's been a healthy scratch over the last couple of weeks. They've opted to go with Dan Feeney. Feeney's got a lot of experience, but he's also in his 30s and was on a practice squad too. So I'm with you. I'd like to maybe give Luke Haggard a chance there and see. But Haggard really hasn't played with Luke Gedeke, though. We have not seen Luke and Luke on the right side yet, because it was Charlie Heck on that side. So maybe Luke and Luke, the Lukes of Haggard, if you will.
I like that. Yeah,
could do some damage. We'll see.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I also like to see Grant Barton move to left guard and have Ben Bredesen play center, but we can't.
We can dream.
We can ask, but
we can dream.
We can dream. It's the holiday season. Miracles do happen.
Right, but we got to wake up to reality. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But
Batman, thank you for the $1.99 and also for protecting the streets of Gotham. Says,
yes.
Please don't compare Bowles to Andy Reid. Soft team.
Did I compare him to Andy Reid?
I think it was when we were talking about like Todd Bowles calls the plays defensively.
Oh yeah.
Same way like Andy Reid calls the offensive plays and other coaches.
I'm just using examples there of head coach / play caller. That's all. So
Eric Moreno, thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, I just wanted to give a shout out to Pewter Report. All year, my dad said one time in Spain they call it an antique. In America, we call it trash. Thanks for the shout out.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Kings are awful. Thank you for the $2 super chat. It says, Bucs are giving up the most touchdowns outside the red zone in the NFL. They've allowed a lot of big plays.
Yeah, they have. And, we didn't really see the big play that much yesterday. I didn't like that last drive, and I didn't like Trey McBride scoring that touchdown on Tyke Smith. I thought Tyke was just a hair second late trying to make a play on the ball there. Matter of fact, I kind of called it. I said, because I could tell they were in man coverage, and I was looking over at Adam Slavon, and I said, watch McBride. Here's the touchdown, because I did have a prop bet on McBride. Not that I was rooting for that. That was only a $5 prop bet, but I was interested. I'm like, because they really hadn't targeted McBride much in the red zone, and here was an opportunity, and they did. And so I don't know. I think in hindsight, if that had been a 20-10 win, I think Bucs fans feel a lot better about things than that final touchdown there. And the fact that the Bucs couldn't win that game on offense and just sustain a drive, maybe kick a field goal, maybe cover. I don't know. That would have been nice, but yeah, we can dream, like you said, Matt.
Holiday season, Rick Watson, thank you for the $1 super chat. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
HY Gibral, thank you for this Kenyan super chat. Says, we don't have enough draft picks to address all the issues on this team. Tight end, linebacker ×2, corner, edge, defensive tackle, Hall, parentheses, offensive guard, Cody, parentheses, center, wide receiver, running back, Rashad, punter. Yeah, it's beauty of free agency, too.
Yeah, free agency. Yep, it's coming. It's coming to a theater near you in Tampa, whether Jason Light likes it or not. You're exactly right. He is going to have to dive into free agency. He typically likes to reward his own players, You'll see a Baker Mayfield contract extension coming this offseason for sure. But yeah, they're going to have to dive into free agency. They just don't have enough draft picks to solve all those problems. And Matt, that's something that we kind of touched on in last week's point counterpoint. Was what's the number one pressing need in this team right now, right?
Yeah.
And we all had a different answer because there's at least 5, and I think that super chat there listed like 7. Mm-hmm. And it's true. I've even had that confirmed with some in the front office. They're like, yeah. And it's kind of crazy to think this could be an 11-win team with a bunch of needs next year. Right. But it's true. And it doesn't mean that they don't have a good nucleus of players. They do. It just they need, again, they know what I've been saying, what we've been saying here on the Pewter Report podcast. This team has starters, plenty of them out of the draft, but not enough stars. They're going to have to do a star search. They got to find some impact dudes, some guys that are Pro Bowl caliber players, right? They're going to have to find the next Tristan Wirfs, the next Antoine Winfield Jr., those types of players that have legit star power. I think Tyke Smith is on the verge of being one of those players for this team. They're going to need more of those guys. They're going to have to find another Emeka Egbuka type receiver, a guy that can come in and catch the ball and be really dynamic. Mike and Chris aren't going to play forever. So they have a lot of needs. They're going to have to find the next Bucky Irving, but at the front 7, and find a pass rusher. But maybe a guy in the 4th round. Maybe it's David Walker. Maybe he's that guy that we never got to see this year. But they're going to have to get some players that can not just start, but be stars and be impact players.
And when it comes to free agency, I don't want to see them just go bargain hunting or try to get if this guy can reach this level. Actually go out and get some legitimate.
I'm with you.
Not everyone's going to be a sure thing. It is a bit of a risk with free agency, but go after. It doesn't have to be the highest sought after person, but go out and get a legit starter or a legit impact player.
I agree.
And Arab 2020, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Says, what is the word with Cansey coming back? Then we can get pressure with front 4.
Hopefully. And we saw Vita Vea come back late in the 2020 season and make an impact during the stretch run. And maybe they don't have to wait till January for Kalijah Cansey. Maybe he comes back towards the end of the year. Maybe 2-3 weeks from now, we'll see. We'll ask Todd Bowles more about Kalijah Cansey when the expected timetable is. Now that we kind of see Chris back in the fold and Bucky back and that first wave of cavalry is returned. Now the next wave is Mike and Jalen, right? And then I think Kalijah Cansey's bringing up the rear, but I do think he is going to suit up again in red and pewter before the season's over. We have some guys that suit up all the time, and they deserve a lot of praise, Matt, our Pewter Platinum members.
Yes, thank you so much to each and every one of you for being Pewter Platinum members. Scott Federico, Scotty J, Raythel Gordon, Noah Parr, Dave Anderson, Eric McMillan, Hezo813, Ash Fishpool, Joel Elrican, Sam, John Dale Morris, Zach Brannikin, RP89, Kevin Thomas, Mario Thomas, Leighton Carter, Brandon Riley, The Guy is Gifted, Alec Bickler, Nick Dubuque, Dominic Tarantino, HK Bucks, The Real Maverick, Brayon Pinkney, Brian Shucker, Black Gold, 1999, Steven Zool, King James 813, Fear the Crew, Henry Gigante, Robert Mackin, Todd Pittner, Giles Dowden, Monster Jam Fever, PC Snowflake 937, and Hemp Tim. Thank you all so much for your support of PewterReport.com and Pewter Report TV.
Yeah, we greatly appreciate it. And if you want to show your support for Pewter Report, you can become a Pewter Report TV channel member. We have new members pop up every week, and we love it. The Pewter People, the Pewter Pro members, as well as our Pewter Premier and Pewter Platinum members. We have 4 different membership levels. Find the membership level that fits your budget, and it comes with different goodies. We're going to be sending out in the month of December, so some free Pewter Report merch for our Pewter Platinum members, as we do every couple of months. And if you're a Pewter Premier or Pewter Platinum member, you get access to our special Pewter Insider podcast. It's our bonus podcast that Matt and I do Friday right after Todd Bowles has that final practice, and it's the freshest information. This is not a B-side or throwaway podcast. We've actually had some of our best podcasts on Friday for our Pewter Premier and Platinum members. We're on a roll. So if you are a Pewter Pro member, level up to Pewter Premier. If you're a Pewter Premier member, level up to Pewter Platinum. We'd love to see that as well, and that really helps us out. All of the money from our YouTube channel goes towards our travel budget, and that helps us in the offseason especially. We go to Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl. We go to Indianapolis for the Scouting Combine, the NFL Annual Meeting, etc., all to bring you the best Bucs coverage off season and during the season. And if your business wants to get some new customers, you can score some new customers by advertising with us, whether it's on our podcasts, our website, which has over 1.5 million unique visitors for the 6th year in a row now, or our social media platforms, which combined have about 130,000 followers. You can advertise, and there are sponsorship opportunities available. Email me at sr@pewterreports.com. One of those companies that has been with us for a long time, they sponsor our Bucs mailbag on Mondays, is Immuni Financial.
Will your savings last through retirement? Most people plan for 10 years. A retirement can last 30. Healthcare, taxes, market swings, it all adds up. Take our quiz. Check your retirement readiness today. Immuni Financial.
That's right, Immuni Financial, proud sponsor of the Bucs mailbag. I just dropped that in the chat, so you can check that out after the show, as well as my latest 2-point conversion post-game column, which just came out during the show as well. Drop that for you in there. But this is a question. I'm 53 years old that I'm facing. I'm still going to work. I'm not retiring next year, folks. Don't worry. I don't make that much money. But I want to know how much longer I have to work, right? How much will my savings last through retirement? Take this 2-minute quiz. It's a really great tool to help you. You can scan that QR code or visit them on the web at immuni.com/retire. And gives you some great information. It's free. There's no obligation to join or become an Immuni Financial customer, although they'd love for it if you did. And I highly recommend them. I have a lot of my financial assets with Immuni Financial to do a great job. But do yourself a favor, whether you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, take this 2-minute quiz. It is a fantastic tool that can help you. Scan the QR code or visit them on the web at immuni.com/retire.
Before we wrap up the show, we have 2 more super chats to get to.
All right.
Starting with Blueberry. Thank you for the $6.98 super chat. Says, I know some Bucs fans aren't happy with the win, but look at Sunday Night Football. 2017 in the 4th, and Denver almost loses to Washington in overtime. Take the win. Yeah, I mean, week in and week out, you see close matchups, upsets, everything like that. You're only as good as your last week, and
that's right.
It is a tough league. There's some games are more winnable than others. That's certainly a case with Bucs Saints, but it's not always easy. And HY Gibral, thank you for this super chat. Says, what do you think Mike signs for in free agency?
Great question. Boy, I don't know. That's a fantastic question. That's a question for Josh Capo. Matt, can you text Josh this time in the chat? And that'd be a good story. We're going to get Josh Capo on that. He's our resident cap specialist. This is an interesting year, right? Because you're kind of paying for what Mike has done, right? In Tampa Bay. You're paying for the legacy. You're paying for the season that could have been, if not for the injury. That's not Mike's fault. He didn't mean to have his clavicle smashed into the ground by a Lions defender who jumped on his back. And actually, that was pass interference, by the way, not called, but clearly pass interference. But then again, he'll be 33 next year, right?
Yeah.
So what can he do? Can he stay healthy? We did see the hamstring injury pop up in week 3 against the Jets. That kept him out a couple of weeks. It's a good question. Because even legends fade, right? We saw Rondé Barber sign a series of 1-year deals at the end of his career. We've seen Levante David now signed year to year the last couple of years. There was a time where Levante dropped down to I think $5 million, then got a raise back up to 7, 7.5, whatever it was. It's going to be interesting to see.
It is, because Mike essentially is getting $21 million this year.
Yeah.
And we'll see if he comes back or if he's able to help make an impact for the season. If you're just looking at what he did this year, there's no way he's worth $21 million signing for next season. But if you had a crystal ball and he said, okay, he's going to give you the production that he gave the previous 2 years
Yeah.
with the Bucs, then he probably is worth that $21
Right.
million. I mean, the Bucs can't go into this offseason and say, we're going to give you $21 million, Mike, and he's only going to play 10 games or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's a conversation that I don't want to have with with Mike's agent right now, because it is more than just, hey, this is what you did last year. This is what we're going to pay you. We're talking about the face of the franchise for the last decade, the greatest offensive player of all time. And I get it. It's a business, but there's very much a human element when we're talking about a legendary figure in this organization. And it would look really bad. And I'm not saying Mike was going to do this. It would look really bad if either story gets out that the Bucs lowballed Mike, or if Mike ends up signing with another team and finishes his career. I don't think that's going to happen. Let me emphasize that as much as I possibly can. I don't believe he's going to sign with any other team, but it's a little bit of a delicate conversation.
It is
going into this offseason.
No, you're right. And I mean, that's Jason Light's first ever draft pick, right? I mean, you talk about sentimentality. All right. I mean, it's like, Jason Light's kids love Mike Evans. He's their favorite player. Like, I don't think Jason Light wants his kids to disown him either, right? At the same time, you've got to, you got to understand this is a business, right? You have to look at it from all angles, including what's best for the Buccaneers. Because at the end of the day, Jason Light's obligation is not to Mike Evans. It is to the Buccaneers. He is the Buccaneers general manager. He's not Mike Evans' general manager. But then you have Chris Godwin Jr., who, if we're
look at his situation, that doesn't
that's
help
right.
with what will
that's
happen
exactly
with
right.
Mike Evans either. So
that's right. Because Chris has been making over $22 million this year, and he didn't even have 150 yards yet on the season.
No, I mean, it's not even close.
Right. And I mean, he doesn't have a touchdown catch. At least Mike has one touchdown. I'm just saying, it's like, it's crazy to think that they've combined for $43 million and change this year, and they have one touchdown between them and maybe a combined, less than 300 yards? It's crazy,
like that.
right?
I know.
So yes, there's a lot to think about with this situation. You just ignited a topic that I'm sure Josh Grizzard's gonna handle for us here. But great points, and it's definitely worth thinking about. And I know one thing is for sure: Mike Greenberg, Jackie Davidson, and Jason Light don't even want to think about this until January or February. So
I think just to put a bow on everything, I think the best thing that could happen is that Mike comes back, balls out. Now, obviously, his season-long stats aren't going to look that good because he's missed so much time. But if Mike comes back, say, for the first game against Carolina, and he averages 100 yards a game and scores a touchdown in each game and has a great playoffs, well, then you feel better about giving him some more money based on what his production was. But, it'll make for a very interesting conversation and something that we can think about until our next podcast, which will be on Wednesday, Bucs versus Saints preview. A rematch between these NFC South rivals. This one will be taking place at Raymond James Stadium. So that'll be our show at 4:00 on Wednesday. In the meantime, if you're not already doing so, please make sure you're following us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We're at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is PewterReportTV. Please like and subscribe, and leave a comment on this video, how you're feeling about the Bucs, certain players, certain units, Todd Bowles, whatever you want to talk about. We'd love to see your comments on this video.
Love reading them.
That'll do it for us on today's show. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everyone for watching. And we'll see you Wednesday at 4 p.m. for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.